It is a great honor to welcome you and fondly recall your last visit as a Prime Minister of a very respected appreciated European ally. It is my honor to welcome you as the Secretary General of the most powerful and successful security alliance of in this humanity. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation to visit Kosovo, the state with the most pro-NATO stance in Europe, with over 97% of our citizens trusting the alliance and wishing to become part of it. Allow me also to welcome you all warmly on behalf of all the citizens of our republic, citizens that will eternally be grateful for all the contribution to a decisive effort of the NATO for our freedom. Before a bit more than 25 years, most of us that you've met today and all of us others that you will meet and see throughout the day used to be younger or even children coming out to welcome the NATO soldiers while they were entering Kosovo and being awaited as our liberators. Those soldiers brought light into the darkness of this human tragedy happening before the eyes of the entire world. The Kosovo people will be eternally grateful for every allied country, every single soldier that stood up to the defense of a people that was endangered from the policies of a hegemonic genocidal regime. Along these 25 years, together with you, we've transformed Kosovo into a success story, a democracy that is engaged not only to benefit from security and safety, but also to contribute and export safety and security. Today, Kosovo is contributing and is willing and capable to improve its contribution to security and safety throughout the world, as the world did work its efforts to help us in our dire moments. NATO is established on the values of our own country, and therefore, our strategic objective for NATO membership, it's not only a state desire, but a strategic necessity for the peace and stability throughout this region and the European continent. As you rightly stated in Bosnia and Herzegovina yesterday, it is very important for this region to not have any security vacuums because, as seen in history, such gaps were abused by malign actors that are not interested to have peace and harmony, but just sow chaos and instability. We want to deepen our partnership with NATO and all our allies, strengthening our military, our own Kosovo security force into a modern, professional, interoperable force with allied partners in the service of peace and stability throughout the world. Kosovo has already met the NATO objective of 2% of GDP of defense investment, and in a record time, we will double that percentage of investment in the defense sector. To achieve that, we need even more active collaboration with NATO and its member countries and allies. Kosovo will very soon begin its manufacturing of ammunition itself, positioning itself as a strategic partner in defense. In this journey, we are very much aware of the challenges that we face, and at the same time, with the threats burdening the security and safety of Kosovo and the entire region. Serbia, unfortunately, continues to undermine the efforts for peace and stability, and through hybrid activity, criminal groups, and continued propaganda supported by Russia and other malign actors, Belgrade wishes to destabilize not only Kosovo, but the entire region. The attacks in the north of Kosovo in the recent years and attacks against NATO troops in May 2023, organized and supported directly by state structures in Serbia, are a clear testament of this hazard. Therefore, the presence of NATO troops in Kosovo is not a guarantee only for our own security, but a barrier against any type of effort to undermine peace and stability, for which all of us together have worked and sacrificed for a long time. We join your continued calls by NATO and EU with public statements for accountability in terms of attacks against NATO troops in May 2023 and other attacks in the north of Kosovo, where structures supported by Serbia have left 93 KFOR soldier wounded, 3 of which very seriously wounded. As stated recently, the lack of accountability for the doers has only encouraged Serbia to continue its attacks through its paramilitary structures. It is important to jointly strengthen the presence with personnel and equipment to prevent the entry and then weaponry of such criminal troops that wish to undermine our stability. As your good friend and a great friend of Kosovo, President Donald Trump, the peace policy, peace through strength policy is best understood in this region, and especially by those who may think of using destabilizing actions. Therefore, dear Secretary General of NATO, we shall continue to be a reliable partner in the fight against hybrid risks. And we are very much ready to contribute to NATO missions, thereby strengthening further our role as a net security exporter country. The region's stability is very much interconnected with the Euro-Atlantic integration of the countries of this region. Kosovo and their citizens do share the values of NATO. It is high time for Kosovo to have its deserved place in the alliance, to contribute as a reliable, committed partner to global stability and security. In Kosovo, you will always feel at home, a home built in freedom with the contribution of thousands of NATO and KFOR soldiers, which remains the largest, the lengthiest, but most successful mission of NATO, a mission which is a testament of the triumph of peace-loving countries when they stand together around the values of human dignity and freedom. I hope that very soon Kosovo will sit on the side of all NATO member countries as a credible, serious, and unwavering partner in efforts for peace and global stability. This people, dear Secretary, 25 years ago was saved by NATO. Now it keenly awaits to stand by your side to defend these values that are a foundation of NATO, which became a shield of liberty for us. Thank you very much.
Dr. Osmani, dear Vjosa,
Dr. Osmani.
Thank you very much for your warm words. It's a pleasure to see you here in Pristina today, in my first trip to the region as NATO Secretary General. I'm here to visit the personnel of our KFOR mission, together with all the permanent representatives of NATO's North Atlantic Council and KFOR operational partners. Our presence today is another concrete demonstration of the alliance's steadfast commitment to lasting security across Kosovo and to regional stability. We just had a very useful discussion on the security situation here in Kosovo and in the region. NATO has supported peace and stability in the Western Balkan region for 30 years now. Our commitment remains strong today, spearheaded by KFOR, which is currently our longest, as you said, and also our largest mission. Under the excellent leadership of General Enrico Barduano, who is sitting at the first row, our KFOR troops work relentlessly to ensure a safe and secure environment for all people and communities living in Kosovo, in line with KFOR's long-standing UN mandate. In addition, the NATO Advisory and Liaison Team continues to support the security organizations in Kosovo through capacity building, education, and training coordination. A secure Western Balkans region means more security across the whole Euro-Atlantic area. We must be clear-eyed on what lies ahead. Decades of hard-won peace must not be jeopardized. KFOR is fully postured to respond to any relevant security developments. And in that regard, We look forward to continued cooperation between Pristina and KFOR in line with decades of lasting commitments. This is important for us. NATO will continue to play its part within our mandate for security of all. We do this in close coordination with the Kosovo police and the EU Rule of Law Mission in Kosovo ULEX, in our respective roles as security responders. Having said that, stability in the region ultimately depends on all sides choosing diplomacy over violence. The solution to long-standing peace is political. In this respect, NATO will continue to fully support the normalization of relations between Belgrade and Pristina, led by the European Union. This is the only way to solve pending issues and secure a stable future, ensuring that the rights of all communities are respected and safeguarded. And to move this dialogue forward, both sides must show flexibility, make the necessary compromises and focus on the long-term gains. And I fully understand that this requires difficult decisions, but we must look at the big picture. Normalization brings greater stability, more investment opportunities, and also lasting security across the whole region for the benefit of all. And this is the message that I will continue to deliver to all my counterparts in the region. Dear Vjosa, once again, thank you so much for welcoming us in Pristina and for a very useful exchange of views to be continued. But for this moment, thank you.
Let's take your questions now. Antigoni Sufi, kalzot.com. Zoti Rutte. Me ngritjen e retorikës ultranacionaliste nga presidenti serb Vučić ndaj Kosovës. Çfarë garanton NATO-ja? Si mund ta
Will
garantojë?
be intact and the country will not revert to the 90s.
Well, obviously, we have to make sure that all relevant players in the region are in close coordination and in close, let's say, strategizing going forward. And that is why I visited yesterday Sarajevo and spoke with the 3 members of the Bosnian-Herzegovinian presidency, why today I'm visiting KFOR here, and thank you again for welcoming here in your office. Thank you so much. And it's very important for me to visit KFOR here on this official visit to KFOR here in Kosovo. But I'm also in very close contact with Alexander Vučić. We were on the phone last week. He will visit me in Brussels soon, hopefully this month. We are looking for dates to do that. And I try to be even-handed and send my messages to all relevant partners that only collectively we can bring this region to a lasting peace. You cannot foresee a future where in 40, 50 years, we still are stuck in the same problems. And that means that it has to be a political solution to this. And that requires the leadership of all politicians. And you have a president here who has a impact not only here in Kosovo, but also in the wider region, and is respected all over the European Union. And that helps. And the same goes for the presidency in Sarajevo, but also for Alexander Vučić. So we have to work together and make sure that we bring this region to a lasting peace. It is crucial, 30 years after 1995.
The last question, Flauka Zogu, Free Europe Radio service in Kosovo. NATO in the past did not support the transformation of the Kosovo security force into an army, while the Atlantic Council mentioned the possibility of revising its commitment. But we've seen support to KSF. So has this approach to KSF's transformation changed? And what is the role of KSF in the regional stability? And in the meantime, Kosovo's case was mentioned as a model to be used in Ukraine to send peacekeeping forces there after the war. Would NATO consider such an option?
Well, on your On your first
Zeker.
question, the mandate is to make sure that the KSF has what it needs to be effective in its humanitarian role here in Kosovo. That's exactly the mandate NATO has, to help KSF to develop better and better, to become a humanitarian force of power in this country when humanitarian issues arise. And that's the mandate, and that's what we are working on every day and continuously. And on your second question, I think that is not so much to Kosovo, but more generally to the situation in Ukraine. Well, here I would side with President Trump. First of all, I want to really note the fact that thanks to him, there has now been a breakthrough when it comes to Ukraine in terms of starting talks with both the Russians and the Ukrainians. That is important. It's good that the French and the Brits have taken initiative, that when a peace deal or a ceasefire would happen in Ukraine, that there will be this issue of security guarantees. One way to do that would be European troops in Ukraine, but there could also be other ways to do this. I think President Trump is right that before you can keep a peace, you first need to have the peace. And the peace is not yet there. But at the same time, we all agree you have to work in parallel, because when a peace ceasefire is there or a peace deal is there, you have to be sure that you can somehow guarantee that peace. And one of the models to do that is what the French and the Brits are working on with many other countries. And that conversation is important, is also in close conjunction with the United States. But again, to President Trump's argument, first a peace deal before we can keep any peace.
To add to the first item there, as you know, NATO has consensus in agreements, and 4 member countries have not recognized Kosovo's independence. And this makes any advancement between Kosovo and NATO rather complex. However, this does not mean that the KSF does not enjoy a full mandate as provided by the Kosovo Constitution and the laws adopted in the Republic of Kosovo, as a force that defends sovereignty and territorial integrity for all the citizens in Kosovo. We found other ways to advance the role of KSF and its contribution to peace and security in other countries around the globe through bilateral agreements of cooperation with different member countries. As you may be aware, in cooperation with the US, KSF is serving in peacekeeping missions in different countries of the world, and simultaneously with bilateral agreements with the UK, we continue to serve in peacekeeping missions throughout the world, and we are now negotiating other bilateral agreements through which the KSF will continue to provide its inputs through its full mandate as provided by the Kosovo Constitution. And apart from what the Secretary General stated, many years ago, there was a letter exchange between the Prime Minister, then Prime Minister, and the Secretary General, which involves the increase of operational level between KFOR troops and KSF, and we will work together in finding the best options of practical implementation. All NATO soldiers, in fact, KSF soldiers, have been trained by the member countries of NATO, NATO itself, and they work in full compliance with NATO standards. Dear media outlets, this is where we conclude the press conference. Thank you very much for your attendance.